Good morning and a warm welcome. Sage for Kalkine TV reporting to you live from Sydney, and you're watching the Global Markets Roundup. Let's dive into some of the highlights and happenings from yesterday, starting with the US market. And Wall Street's shares fell and the dollar slipped from a 16-month high on Tuesday as investors positioned for interest rate hikes in 2022 after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell was nominated for a second term. And the Turkish lira plunged 15%, crashing to another record low during its second worst day ever as investors panicked after President Tayyip Erdogan defended recent rate cuts and showed little concern for rising inflation. The benchmark US indices closed mixed on Tuesday, November 23rd, as technology stocks declined and bond yields rose a day after Biden re-nominated Jerome Powell as a Fed chair. The S&P 500 climbed 0.17%, while the Dow Jones was up 0.55%. The Nasdaq composite was down 0.50% and the small cap Russell 2000 fell 0.11%. Technology stocks get inversely affected when bond yields rise. And however, despite the market uncertainties, most S&P 500 companies saw robust third quarter growth. And analysts expect the quarterly profits of the companies to increase by 40% compared to last year. And meanwhile, in a statement, the White House announced that the US, China, Japan, India and other countries would use their strategic oil reserves to ease the gasoline prices fueling inflation. And energy, finance and real estate stocks were the top gainers on the S&P 500 index. Consumer discretionary, technology and communication stocks trailed. And 7 of the 11 segments of the index remained in the positive territory. And we've reached the time for a small break, but stay tuned. I'll be back with the UK and the Australian market updates.
Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's Tech Beat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the Tech Beat, exclusive to Kalkine TV.
Welcome back, Sage here. You're watching the Global Markets Roundup show by Kalkine TV. And the European stocks slumped to a 3-week low on Tuesday, clocking their worst session in nearly 2 months, as a resurgence in the COVID-19 cases raised fears of tighter restrictions, while energy stocks and miners rose on higher commodity prices. And the Pan-European Stock 600 shed 1.3%, with only the gas and oil, SXEP and basic resources sectors trading higher. London equities ended on a flat note, with the domestic benchmark FTSE 100 finishing flat, staging a marginal comeback in the terminal deals on Tuesday. On the other hand, the mid-cap indicator, FTSE 250, ended 200 points lower as the market index failed to resume the trade in the positive territory. And the European equities are thoroughly affected due to the recent resurgence in the number of infections, with the Austrian administration announcing a 10-day nationwide lockdown. Investors are categorically concerned about the efforts of respective healthcare administrations, as they are unable to contain the spread of the virus, even after maximising the number of immunised people. And the FTSE 100 gained 0.15%, while the mid-cap heavy FTSE 250 lost 0.89%. Japan's Nikkei share average gave up losses to close higher on Monday as investors bought cheaper stocks, while concerns on the return of COVID-19 restrictions in Europe capped the gains. And the Nikkei share average ended up 0.09% after losing as much as 0.68% earlier in the session. And the Shanghai stocks closed up on Tuesday as risk appetite got a lift on the prospect that China will lower corporate funding costs and aid the small firms, while real estate shares recouped losses after the banks were told to issue more loans for property projects. And the Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.2%. South Korean shares ended lower on Tuesday in line with the Asian peers as the re-nomination of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell bolstered bets of a faster than expected policy tightening. And the benchmark Kospi closed 0.53% lower following a 1.42% gain on Monday. Let's move on now to the Australian market, and the ASX 200 rose 0.8% on Tuesday. A number of companies, including Harvey Norman Holdings and Ramsay Health Care, are scheduled to hold their annual general meetings on Wednesday. Webjet will also be releasing its half-year results this morning. And in the yields, the two-year yield stood at US 0.61%, while Australia's was up at 0.68%. And the five-year yield stood at US 1.33%, while Australia's was at 1.43%. And the 10-year yield stood at US 1.67%, while Australia's was at 1.86%. The dollar index fell 0.04%, the euro was up 0.13%, and the Turkish lira plunged 15%. Oil prices climbed despite the US announcing that it will release oil from reserves to control rising energy prices. And the Brent crude was up 3.44% at US $82.44 a barrel. And WTI rose 2.64% to reach US $76.78 per barrel. Gold prices hit a three-week low after the interest rate hike bets increased, and spot gold fell 0.9%. US gold futures settled down 1.3%. And meanwhile, the most actively traded iron ore futures on the Dalian Commodity Exchange for January delivery soared as much as 9.9% in the morning session, the biggest percentage gain since 30th September 2021. And that's all for now. Thanks for your company on that report. Do keep watching Kalkine TV for more of the market updates. This is Sage signing off.